Hey there, welcome. It's MikeMoore. I've got another speed model for you today. Well, I mean, it's not really a speed model. I'm modeling it quite slowly, actually, in real time, but it's sped up, so to you guys, it looks like a speed model. I guess it would be more of a time lapse, but anyway, we won't worry about that. So, you see here in the background, I've got a sketch of my bicycle. It is actually the one I have in my house right now. It's a lot easier to model things when you have a real world reference for the item. So that's just what I decided to do. I'm actually modeling this bike because I wanted to try my hand at animation, so I'm just gonna fiddle around with that and see what I can do. But I thought it would be cool for you guys to just watch the modeling process on a bike, because they've got quite a weird, the 3D modeling term I guess would be topography, but they've got a weird shape, the frame and everything, and the seat that comes out of it, and the things that hold the wheels. It's all really cool, shape wise. So I figured it would be kind of neat for you guys to watch. I'm gonna put a link up in the top right hand corner here for some music, because I don't like putting music in my speed modeling videos. But if you guys want to listen to music in the background instead of listening to me talk, or if you want to listen to it at the same time as me talking, you can just listen to this instead. So I'll put the link up here. And for now, we're just gonna continue on with watching me model things. So this was my first attempt actually at modeling a bicycle. I had tried my hands a few things. Most of the things I model, I record, but I don't know if they're gonna come out well as a time-lapse video. Usually they don't, because, well, obviously I've only released one of them other than this one. But the bicycle one came out pretty well, and it only took like 7 or 6 hours to model, somewhere around there. I'll put the time up on the screen because I have the actual recording time of this video, obviously. But so in all things considered, it didn't take that long compared to some of the other things that people model, like those huge, super realistic mechs, or, well, I mean, can't have a realistic mech, they don't exist, but super realistic people and really cool looking robots and that kind of thing. They take really long to model. Bikes are fairly simple in comparison to a lot of other things that people model. I actually moved to a new city recently. I used to live in a really small town, and there was no bike routes in the small town, so I had a lot of issues with finding places to bike, because, like, I don't know if you guys know, maybe you live in cities or maybe you live in towns where biking is like pretty widely, it's normalized, so a lot of people do it. But in small towns, at least the one I lived in, people just hate you when you bike on the road, but people also hate you when you bike on the sidewalk. You're not supposed to bike on the sidewalk, it's kind of illegal, but people just yell at you all the time, so you have issues biking around. And now that I've moved to this new city, there's bike paths everywhere. Like I swear there's more bike paths than there's roads. It's amazing. It's really fun. So I've been biking a lot lately. I'm biking back and forth from my new job that I got here too, so that's pretty fun. You can see me making all the squiggly lines for the spokes here, and I'm just using 2 array modifiers. One to make the spokes around the one wheel, and then another one to place the other spokes in the other wheel. And that was actually super simple to do. And I just used a triangular prism to make the spokes to keep it low poly. And I know this part here, the gears on the front, that's not actually what gears look like, but I'm not worried about this functioning like a real bike. I just kind of wanted it to look neat. And I really liked the way these gears turned out, the round on the inside and the spiked on the outside. I thought it looked pretty neat. You won't really be able to see what they look like until I turn on rendered mode here. I'll flash it on for a second here to show you what it looks like. It's pretty neat though. The whole bike turned out actually quite nice. There was a little flash of rendered mode there for you. It looks quite good. At some point, I apparently changed the color of the tires. I don't know when I did that, but the tires are gray. Or the tires are black and everything else is gray. I don't know how I managed to do that. You'll notice that since I'm modeling this on the frame of the bike, it has the mirror modifier applied to it, and I don't want that, so I just removed the mirror modifier so it doesn't have the gears on both sides, because that's not how bikes work. Now I'm just fiddling around with the colors here. I like doing the one color approach. I don't really like texturing things, and that's more just because I'm lazy and I don't want to texture things, but I also do really like the way it looks, not having a textured model, just having like the cell shaded kind of look. Maybe I'll go into texturing a little later, but for now I'm just gonna play around with just having untextured and making the model do all the work, if you know what I mean. There were a few times, around here would be when one of the times that I was doing this, but I would get up from my computer and go and look at the bike because I didn't know how things should be shaped. So I'd get up and I'd walk over to my bike and think, I've never really thought about how the pedals look on the bike, so I should go over and look at that, and that helped me out with making things look nice. Now, I'm not making everything look super realistic because that wasn't my goal in this. I just wanted it to look cool and like resemble the parts on the bike, so that's what I ended up doing here. This obviously doesn't look exactly like a real bike pedal would, but it still looks nice, and I like the way it turned out. Also, that's not at all how spokes work on bikes, but but you get the idea. You understand that they are spokes in the middle of the wheel. This seat, actually, I had never really thought about how complex seats are. I was actually dreading doing the seat because I was like, it's going to look really weird and I don't really want to do it. Seats are really weird. And you see the screen froze there. That was me again getting up to look at the seat to see what was going on. I've got this video sped up. I think it's 1300% it was sped up. But seats are really fucking weird looking. So the whole time I was modeling this bike, I was kind of like skirting around doing the seat. I was trying to like do other things before I did this because they do look quite strange, but it actually came out pretty easily once I got the basic shape. I could just fiddle around with it and make it look more seat-like. And then I'm just doing like the little supports for under the seat because the seat isn't on a solid piece of metal. It's got like bars that are attached to it. Assumingly, because you're putting pressure on the seat and you don't want the one bar to just give you no give. So if you put a lot of weight on the front of the seat, it just snaps off, because that would be bad. The handles were actually another part I was dreading, and I don't know why I did this. I left all the hard parts for last. But the filling in, like the attaching of the two bars, like you see the one that's going vertical and the other one that's going horizontal here. The attaching of those two was actually like super fun to do because it gave it that welded look, right, without having an actual weld mesh around the bars, which is what most models do. But the way they just kind of flow into each other because they have the same number of vertexes around each hole, I think it looked really neat. Around this point, I was looking at the handles, and I was like, these don't look quite right. What's going on here? They should look like handles, but they don't. And I realized that the handles actually needed brakes later on, but I didn't put them in until a little bit later. I had to do a little bit of fiddling here because the array that I had that moved the spokes from the one wheel to the other, it wasn't quite the same as the array that I used to move the wheel from one side to the other. So I had to even them out and make them look like they were the same distance apart from each other. So all the spokes would converge in the actual center of the wheel. This part here that I'm doing is the disc brake on my bike. And it's a weird shape, so I didn't get the actual shape correct. But I made it look something like what it looks like in real life, so it's quite nice. You can see here I'm modeling the brakes now, because I finally decided to get around to that. And I'm modeling them straight, and I know that's not how brakes actually look on bikes, but it's a lot easier to model things when they're straight left to right, up and down, and then you can kind of turn them later. And that's what I ended up doing with that. And this part is where I'm modeling the chain. Now, Some people might get upset with me for not using an actual chain mesh where they have like the individual links, but it would just be so many polys, and I just don't want to deal with that. It would be the same if I was making like a tank or something, right? Like, you don't model the individual treads. As good as it would look, you should probably use some like texture black magicery, just so you get it to look like an actual tank tread. So this is about the finished product of the bike here. This is pretty much done, but I'll show you some other things here too. I didn't record this part because, God, setting up skeletons for objects is just so annoying. So what I ended up doing is I ended up doing the skeleton for the bike off screen, but I'll show you some of what it looks like now. So give me 1 second and I'll transition over into real-time Mike with real-time Blender. So here we are inside Blender. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but rendered mode kind of like freaks out in real time, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to switch it to material mode, so it's not going to be shiny or anything. So get out of here. I don't want to see that. So you can still see the colors, it's just not shiny, so it doesn't look quite as good. You know what? You don't need it to look. It's not important. I'm going to switch it to mode so you get a better idea how it looks. Alright, so you don't see the skeleton here, but you see that it's posed, right? Like, it doesn't look like it's in the same position as it was when I modeled it. And that's because this guy and this guy, the handlebars and the wheel, are actually separate meshes from the body and the back wheel and the seat and everything, and they're all hooked up to a skeleton. I had that hidden there, but now it's not hidden, so you can see the seat going up and down, which is really cool. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll make the bones slightly smaller so they're a little easier to see. Give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay, so they're now a little easier to see through. So you can see me moving this in pose mode to do this. Yeah, I can move this guy up and down, and the seat kind of like moves up and down in this little peg here, which would be where the seat would actually move up and down, which is really neat. I can rotate this guy, so it rotates the wheel like a normal bike would. And it's been a little while since I looked at this, so I can't exactly remember where the parent bone is. I think it's this guy. Or maybe this guy? Who knows? Doesn't matter. But you can turn the bike, obviously, with this guy. The wheels turn weirdly. What I'll do is Alt-G, Alt-R. So the wheels turn a little wonkily. I have no idea why, but it works fine in Unreal Engine. So I'm just gonna leave it like this because that's probably where I'm gonna end up doing my animation. So yeah, it's fine. You don't have to worry about it. Like that's just how bikes work. You know, the more friction you have, the better the biking workout is. You know what I'm saying? It's way better that way. The pedals actually move too, but I think they do the same thing. Oh no, they're fine. They're fine. They twist as you would expect pedals to twist. So yeah, this is all really cool. The handle turning is actually like my favorite part. Look at that. That's so beautiful. Oh, I know why. Because I don't have any constraints on it. You're supposed to put constraints on bones. I don't know if you guys would be interested in the process of me rigging, but if I was to ever upload a Speedmodel, I would probably do the rigging separately. It would be a little more in-depth, and some people enjoy the act of me making the mesh, but they wouldn't enjoy, like, oh, look at this finished mesh that he's just, like, wiggling around a tire on, fucking around with modifiers for, like, 45 minutes. Like, oh, isn't that fantastic? So that it would be some people's cup of tea, and not others, you know what I'm saying? So, oh, good, yes, when you switch into rendered mode, it's just invisible, so that's nice. So if you guys express some kind of interest in me doing the rigging in a video, I would probably upload it as a separate video just so you guys can see it. But I'm just not going to put the rigging in most of my videos unless there's a very explicit interest shown by you guys to see that kind of thing. But yeah, this is the bike. It's pretty neat. I'll show you some animations of it. I plan on doing like a really short, just like testing the waters animation to see how things look. So that's what I'll probably do in a couple weeks. Actually, I'll flip over to another model I made that I didn't do a speed model for because I was just kind of fucking around seeing if I could do it. So here's another mesh that I made. I'll switch this into material mode as well. It's not quite done yet. I don't have the car seat or anything in it, but it's I'm gonna actually try to make like a really simple game that you can play on PC that has the bike and this guy in it, and they're both gonna actually be used for the animation, but they're obviously not rigged yet. This thing, you can't see any rigging at all going on in here. I actually started making this one first, and I considered starting to rig it, and I was like, I have no idea how to rig the wheels or the turning of the vehicle, so I'm just gonna make a bike instead because there's less wheels, that'll be easier, right? I don't know why that thought process came into my head, but this looks kind of neat. It's just like a little buggy style thing. And I'll be making an animation with those eventually, because I don't know how long that process will take, because I've never done it before. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the modeling of the bike. And I'll be seeing you again soon. Later days.